Welcome to The Purple Door, a podcast for young women by young women, with your host, Shanique Lowndes. Each week, we deliver the best hard-hitting analysis of topical issues that affect young women and how they deal with them. Today, we have a really good topic lined up. I'm excited to hear what my panelists will be saying on this particular topic today. So I'm going to jump right in and let them introduce themselves.
My name is Brianna Blair.
My name is Shanique Campbell.
My name is Shamali Davidson.
And I'm Kimani Prendergast.
We will be discussing peer pressure. The idea of not being able to fit in, especially at the tertiary level. Our young ladies are students and prospective students of colleges and universities. So they're going to be sharing what their experiences have been. What are some of the strategies that they use to combat peer pressure on the college scene? And I am sure that as the conversation unfolds, I'll be able to share some of the experiences I had going to university, which was almost a decade ago. Quickly, Kimani, what was the experience that made you realize how real peer pressure is at university?
To be honest, I don't think I've ever really thought about the different pressures that affected me at university. But thinking about it now, one of the issues that when you go to University of the West Indies, you know that you always have to dress nice.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to, you don't really want to repeat your clothing.
Mm-hmm.
You want to ensure your hair always look nice because you're in a wider pool, you're socializing with more persons. So that was really one of the pressures that I faced. Apart from that, you really just had, the main pressure I had was ensuring that I reached the lab on time.
I totally understand.
Well, for me, when I just started college, it wasn't bad because I found myself in the right clique. I found an Adventist fraternity group and I used to attend meetings and so forth. But my second year going onward, when the coursework pressure really came on, I had to do a lot of sacrifices, especially when I know I have to go to church on the Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself lacking in that aspect.
Well, although I am a sixth former, I had the privilege, I call it, of experiencing college life for about 3 weeks last year. And I must say, the space of 3 weeks, I learned so much about college life because I had friends. They were the partiers, so they would ask me, so Shania, come this party, whatever. And I would tell them no, because one, I was like 17, and two, I did not want to diminish my Christian values by going to these parties. And it was hard because, knowing where they're going, you don't want to go, but knowing who I am, I had to make that choice. And that's the problem. Many young people face this every day. So I only faced it for 3 weeks. Many of them face it for every day for 4, 5, 6 years. Many of them.
Well, that is true. I wouldn't say that I was pressured into going to the different parties, but in that setting, just coming from home, you're finally on your own. Yes, you want to fit in, you want to go to different places, you want to go to the different parties, you want to go to Inti on a Thursday, when your friends staying up Friday nights, probably going for drinks, you want to go because you want to form that bond with your friends.
I understand what Shanique is saying because I am at the pre-university, because sixth form is pre-university. So at school, you're socializing with different kids from different backgrounds, right? So it's like in fifth form, it's like you're focusing on CXC. When you reach Cape, and it's like everybody meet up and they start talking about going out, and you're getting older. So it's like you want to experience what they're saying.
That's not something that as a Christian you should be aspiring to be participating in. But that's the thing about peer pressure. You see, peer pressure is so strong because you are seeing and you're around other people who are just like you. They're your age. Many of them, they're coming from the same kind of background in terms of educationally. You're studying in the same university, maybe doing the same degree and all of that. So even though you know that they're not Christians, when you look at them, when you interact with them, you're saying, but these are people just like me. And at that age, the differentiation can sometimes be difficult to make because all of us are students at university, and these are things that we are cultured to believe are natural for college students, university students to do. So how do we as Christians deal with the reality that we are not supposed to fit in when it comes to certain things? Like, as a Christian, especially not going to an Adventist institution, because none of you here are students at NCU. How do you deal with the reality that as a Christian in a public university, not Adventist university, not a Christian institution, how do you accept, deal with, come to grips with the fact that there's going to be a lot going on that you are just not going to be a part of?
First of all, I would say, speaking from experience, you have to ensure that people understand that you are a Christian. When they approach you with things such as going to integration, probably smoking some weed to get off the stress, you have to let them know that I am not about it, and you have to know that you have to stand your ground. Another thing you can do is that you find a Christian group to associate yourself with, because the environment you place yourself in will help to influence the type of person and the type of things you will do. As well as you need to ensure that you know yourself. Sometimes we go to university and the person we are at home, we forget who we are. Yes, during university you're going to really find out who you are based on the decisions you make. So from day one you have to make a choice. Do I want to be this person, a Christian, or am I going to choose to be something else, and ensure that you stand for it?
I agree with you. Being headstrong is one main perspective, but the main thing right here, in my point of view, is time management. As long as you have a good time management and you follow that schedule, you're good to go. If not, you'll find yourself going astray.
And you say that in relation to you not doing assignments and other things on the Sabbath.
Yeah,
that is
that's
understandable.
time management. I must say, when I was doing CSEC last year, I'm of the opinion the Sabbath is God's day. He only asks me for one day. I don't want to put anything in space of his day. So studying was one of those things. I remember one Sabbath we were at church and they were saying, divine service had just ended. So, this is about 1 or 1:30. And they were saying, oh, we have to go home because we need to go study. Like, that was my reaction. Study Sabbath, sun hasn't set it. They're like, yeah, because, we don't have enough time and whatever. I think and I believe when you take a stand for God, he will stand up for you, right?
That is true.
And yeah, because what happened is that they were studying on the Sabbath. I said, no, I will not do that. When we graduated, one of them, he passed all his subjects, probably not with all ones or two, some threes. One of them failed one of their subjects. When I got my CSEC results, not bragging or boasting or anything, I had gotten 10 ones and a 2.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So you see, I could have succumbed to this pressure and say, it's true. I should go and get, some studying done on the Sabbath, like they did. But I decided, no, I'm going to stand up for God. Yes, it's a little more difficult in college. As you grow older, you don't have your parents behind you saying, do this, do that, because you're on your own. But I think one of the factors is that, although I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, I was going to a Seventh-day Adventist institution. So I got it double dose,
I hear what you're saying, but sometimes I don't think that it's best to always look at the outcome, like the result. Sometimes it's just having your own, it's about making your own choice. Yes, they may have thought that, hey, I'm going to study on the Sabbath. And you may have thought that, no, I'm not going to study on the Sabbath. May necessarily have something to do with the results you obtained. Yes, God is a good God and it may have went that way. But at the end of the day, as Christians, we need to not look at what the outcome will be like, but just knowing ourselves that we are doing the right thing. So what you did was the right thing. So the outcome that may not necessarily have anything to do with it. But the fact that you did the right thing and the fact that you stood up to them, you gave them an example to see that we should always make the right decision.
I wasn't really doing it for the result. I was just saying that I stood up for God and this is what happened. I was really looking at it that this is what is going to have to happen, right? So I was just saying that it's a plus. Understand?
And sometimes it's easy to make a good decision when it's something as black and white as say study on the Sabbath or not, or go to a party or not, or stuff like that. That you know that you're not to do those things. Those things are easier to say, let's not do that. How do you though deal with the more subtle influences of peer pressure? Because you learn from primary school, high school, that you must keep good company. But sometimes when you go to university, you find yourself in the company of people who might not necessarily want to encourage you to go to parties and stuff, but their behavior, their conduct may not meet the mark. They are not of that standard. They're not Christian, so their values are different, and they may use language that is not appropriate and so on. How do you deal with making sure that you surround yourself with the kind of people that will help you to not have too much negative peer pressure to deal with? Because we have to remember there's positive peer pressure as well. So tell me about the experience you've had, or what you can say on the matter of making sure that you surround yourself with good company.
Well, I had a similar experience. I found myself in a wrong company at one point. Being in that group for quite some time, I realized that the main pressure for my college is that the college is situated in a uptown area. So you always have the big cars, the BMW and so forth, coming on campus, and then you have the big men coming out. So we are at college and we want to survive. When it's the weekend and you're really hungry, you want to find a way to survive. You spend your parents' money before month end, so you have to wait again to get a new amount of money. So these men come as predators to prey on us. So what I realized with this group is that they take advantage of these men coming on campus. So it became a whole situation in which where I would sit with them, and when we're speaking, they call Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, anybody, and say, he called it today, he says he's going here and there, I want burger and so forth. So those men would come, pick them up, and then buy them burger, anything they want. And then they came to me one day saying they want to introduce me to someone. So I'm like, someone? Yes. I'm like, all right then, let me see who. This man looks as if he's in his 60s or so, grey hair, everything, but he was driving a nice white Audi. Hi, and everything. And I said, hi, how are you? I'm good. I can see that you're a Christian. You look really nice. And then he started to princess me up and things and things. So my friends and I went into the car and everything, and he just kept on saying, you look really nice, natural hair, tuned down, good Christian, everything. Alright, what you guys want to eat? But at the end of the day though, he came to me, approaching me, wanting to kiss me and things like that. So that's where I caught on to see what that whole thing that they were doing was all about. In exchange for money or food or whatever, you have to go certain lengths to get that. And I'm saying, that means that the guys don't really value the fact that we're Christian and we have to take things a certain way. And it's the way you put yourself out there. They see us as an easy target. So that's where I realized, like, okay, this is not the group for me. Yeah, I have to be careful. So that's where I decided, no, I won't continue. I'll just say we can't be friends anymore and then move on.
That's an interesting experience that you've shared, but there's a saying that goes, there's safety in numbers and there's also strength in numbers. Yes. Sometimes you as an individual may find it easier to ward off certain temptations, but when you're a part of a group and it seems that everybody in the group is going a certain way, it can be hard. The Bible says in Proverbs 13 verse 20 that whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. And so when we go into these spaces, because the truth of the matter is, yes, you go to university to get a degree. Yes, you go to college to study for your degree or whatever. But socializing is a very important part of your university experience. It's a very important part of that tertiary level, especially when you go to university for the first time to do your bachelor's degree. I just think that when it comes to peer pressure, because we have to be so aware of how real peer pressure is and how wrong it can go, that we have to be really selective in terms of how we choose to associate with people, who we choose to become our closest friends, who are the people that we allow to influence us, because it doesn't make any sense. You're going to say, oh, me? Nobody can influence me. All of us can be influenced. And it can be difficult to kick against the pricks, for want of a better expression, when you're in a group of people that you really feel close to, they make you feel like you belong, and then everybody says, okay, let's do this. It can be hard. It might not even be something as big as that. I'm thinking of so many experiences I know of and I've had myself about even very subtle things that sometimes we're influenced to do. Minor compromises.
Drinking.
That we're... No, man, I'm not even thinking about anything as big as that. I'm thinking about simple things like you go to buy something and you get more change than you should have gotten. And your friend is there with you and say, just take the money now.
Here, college students, they will
Yeah,
understand.
and everybody knows
You need
when
the
you're
money.
in college,
Yeah, but
you're
after
ever
a while-
broke.
but after a while, you feel the guilt. Knowing you're a Christian is like
You man, the guilt.
you
hits
feel the guilt. It's like you're saying, feel weird. I need to give back this money.
Then you don't.
Yeah.
That is why it's important for you to know who you are and who you want to be, so that you know what kind of persons you want to be around and in your circle.
That is it.
Understand?
And you see, it was something that didn't trouble me when I was at university. In my experience, I found that my mother taught me that you can't be in everything.
True.
It's okay to not do certain things. It's okay to not be involved in what is the in thing. So we were taught as children that it's okay if it's a fair day or if it's a trip or whatever and you don't go. It's okay. You're not gonna die. It's fine. But why I was trying to focus on the more subtle things is that sometimes when you're brought up in a Christian home and, the values are set, it's easy to say, oh, don't go to the parties, don't drink, don't engage in this, don't engage in that. But sometimes, because you may not be so deliberate in choosing your friends, the more subtle things get you. Like, you may be hanging with people and they use foul language, and maybe the first time it happened, you're like, okay then. But then it keeps happening and you find yourself getting less and less, incensed about it until
See, this, I get
eventually
immune to
it starts slip from you. So in a moment of excitement or whatever, you find that you might use a foul language and you're like, what? And you're wondering, how did you get here? So sometimes when we think about peer pressure, we think about the big things like drugs and alcohol and partying and sex and so on.
And don't pay attention
And
to these things.
The average Seventh-day Adventist young person knows you're not supposed to be doing those things. But when we're thinking about our friends and who we have influencing us, we also have to think about things like their conduct.
That is true,
Yeah.
because sometimes with the persons around us, they say birds of a feather flock
Flock
together.
together.
But most persons think that, oh, I'm like this and my friends are like that. But at the end of the day, the more you the more time you spend around your friends, the more each of you adopt behavior. And so at the end of the day, as Lady Lone said,
I like when she calls me that.
you basically adapt the bad behavior, not just the talking, how they talk, but even what they talk about. If you spend time around persons who gossip and talk bad about
Eventually,
people,
you-
eventually that's all you're going to do. You're not going to have anything else to talk about except that.
And that's why Jamaican proverb, show me a company and I tell you who you are. It's basically the same thing. Because afterward you start becoming like the persons who you associate with. And as the scripture passage say, when you hang out with wise people, you end up being wiser. If you hang out with fools,
You come to
become
harm.
a fool.
And the truth is, in the university context, in the college context, you also have to think about the practical side of it. You don't want to be hanging out with people that are going to encourage you to skip classes and who are going to waste your time. You want to be hanging out with people, spending time with people who, while you're chatting and laughing and enjoying good company and whatever, they will say, boy, remember we have a test next week, we need to go study. You want people who will pull you up, not people who will drag you down, or people who will encourage you to be your better self. And that also includes the academic aspect. Because sometimes, as Christians, we get caught up in the spiritual side of things and not realizing that we have to be Christians in our practical life as well. So as a Christian, God expects us to be good stewards of our time and our talent. So you can't go university as a bright person and come out failing and getting C's like everybody else who hang out under the tree and waste time. God is expecting you to stand out in a positive way in every aspect. So even when we're selecting our friends, we really should be trying to avoid the time wasters. I just want quickly 10 seconds each, your final thoughts on this matter of peer pressure. What is the one thing you would say to somebody who is struggling with a matter of peer pressure? What is the one thing you would say to encourage them? 10 seconds.
Or about stop and think about things.
Whether in college or whether in high school, wherever you are, just ensure that you always think about the choices that you make. Think about the friends that you want to you're going to keep. Think about every single decision, because everything that you do affects who you will become in the future. And always aim to make the right decision and to follow Christ.
Adding to Kimani's point, prayer. Prayer is the best
Amen.
weapon we have. The best weapon in these last days, especially.
Know yourself, know what you're about, know who you are. It's all about your self-esteem.
At the end of the day, each person has to decide what is good for them. And we have to remember that God is there for us. Whatever influences we're facing, God will always provide a way of escape from the temptations that come upon us. And we have to just be willing to choose the right friends and just do the right things. Because we've all been taught, and we can live above peer pressure and try to encourage positive peer pressure in our environment. Thanks for listening to The Purple Door. This podcast is made possible by the Women's Ministry Department of the Central Jamaica Conference for listeners like you. Visit them at centralja.org. Like The Purple Door on Facebook and Instagram, and leave your comments and questions. And remember to subscribe so you never miss a show. Join us next week for another great discussion. Until then, be blessed.